Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1172. 1172, June the 25th, 2020, Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, yeah, we had another failed upload yesterday. Again, it was the same issue that I had about a week ago, or earlier in the week, I guess. I can't remember. It was just a couple of days ago. We had a failed upload. And it was the same thing. So, and this is not a censorship thing of Google or YouTube or anything like that, because the upload is failing in the processing stage. And that means that the video has not been uploaded yet. So it's not like it's uploaded and taken down or removed. It's the upload is failing. So would suggest to me it's a problem with my service provider, which I really have no choice. I live out, in a fairly rural area, and we only have one option out here. It's pretty much Spectrum or nobody. So there's really nothing I can do about it. It's a bummer, but I apologize. There's just nothing I can do about it. I don't know what's going on. And if you call Spectrum, they don't really have any answer for you. You get a pat answer, gee, sir, I'm very sorry, blah, 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 blah. We'll send someone out to check. There's nothing wrong with my connection in my house or anything. I connect wireless. There's nothing wrong with my connection at all. It's them. It's their system. But they'll never admit that. So they just give you the glad hand sort of approach to it. So it's a bummer. There's nothing I can do about it. So I'll just continue to do my uploads, and just know that if you wake up some morning and my video is not there, it's very likely failed upload, thanks to my internet provider. So anyway, maybe I'll find a way around that at some point, but for now, that's the way things are. Just so you know. Okay, so a lot going on in the last 24 hours. Of course, the big news of yesterday was the 3-judge panel at the appellate court has ordered the presiding judge, Sullivan, to dismiss the case against Michael Flynn. Does that mean it's totally the end of it? Probably. But technically, Sullivan could actually fight it. Okay, I don't believe he will. I don't believe he will fight it, but technically he could. But I don't believe he will. So I think it's safe to say that the case is going to be dismissed by Judge Sullivan. Also, as part of this ruling, Judge Sullivan's appointment of John Gleeson as a friend of the court has also been vacated. Mr. Gleeson, we're not going to have to hear his dribble. Thank God. So, Sidney Powell got 2 of the 3 things she wanted. She wanted the case dismissed. She wanted to vacate Mr. Gleeson's sham show. And she got both those things, but she also wanted Sullivan removed from the case. They did not do that. But they did pretty much order him, and the decision was 2 to 1, order him to dismiss the case. So we will see if he follows through. I think it's very likely he will. I don't think he'll push back anymore, but who knows? In the days that we're living in, everything is possible. Everything is possible. So, of course, this ruling is coming right after the notes from Peter's Been Stroking Us were discovered. And, of course, these notes are exculpatory to Michael Flynn. And, as I said, the ruling was 2 to 1. So, this is all good news. Michael Flynn did a couple interviews yesterday, and he certainly said what many of us have suggested, that he is going to have very much to say. Not right now. He still has to, keep it tampered down for a little while, but I imagine it won't be too long before he's going to be free to speak out. And he basically said that in these interviews, one with Limbaugh and one with Hannity. And, he knows a lot of things. He can do a lot of damage, and I think that's probably the main reason why they wanted to keep him sort of in purgatory. They didn't want him talking, but I think we won't have to wait very much longer before we see Michael Flynn actually getting a chance to talk. And he can probably he's probably now free to communicate with people within Trump's orbit or people within the Justice Department or members of Congress and provide them with a lot of information that they probably don't have. I imagine Devin Nunes or Jim Jordan would love to sit down with Michael Flynn, because my guess is he knows a lot of things. Remember, he was in several of those briefings that Trump got from Brennan, Clapper, and Comey. So I do expect that once Michael Flynn is 100% clear to go about his normal life, that he is not just going to, disappear from the scene. I think that he is going to probably be pretty prominent in the months to come. And I think he has a lot of information that will be brought forward. And I think it's obviously going to be very damaging to the deep state. And that's probably why they have wanted to keep him pretty much shut up or in a state of purgatory. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from Michael Flynn to find out what he knows. And I'm pretty sure he knows a lot. But good news, I'm glad this thing is finally over. I assume it's over. I think I'm 98% sure. There's always a chance that Sullivan could push back, but I think since this higher court ruling ordering him, I don't expect he'll fight back anymore. I think he'll probably cash it in and call it a day. But we'll keep watching just to see. We'll know very soon. Now, it should be noted also that the notes that were discovered that led to this ruling were discovered by U.S. Attorney Jeff Jensen. Jeff Jensen. And it's not just notes from Peter's been stroking us. He also has some notes from Bill Priestap. Now, I'm really starting to like this Jeff Jensen, this U.S. Attorney from Missouri, who's now been appointed to work on the Durham team. So I'm glad to see him part of the Durham team, because one thing that we've learned about Jeffrey Jensen since A.G. Barr first put him in charge of looking into the Flynn investigation, the Flynn case, is that Jeff Jensen works very thoroughly and very quickly. Remember, he was only on the Flynn investigation for 6 or 7 weeks, and that's all it took him to get to the bottom of it. And when he did, he immediately provided the information to Sidney Powell, to the top U.S. Attorney in D.C., Timothy Shea, and then Attorney General Barr. So clearly what we know about Jeff Jensen is that he works very, very quickly. He doesn't screw around, and he has no fear of coming up with the truth. And he's obviously very good at knowing how and where to get the documents he needs. He doesn't seem to get played like everyone else and waiting months and months and years in some cases to get documents. I mean, this guy literally in 6 to 7 weeks blew the entire Flynn case up totally. After everybody's been working on this for a long time, this dude comes in 6 or 7 weeks, he blows the whole thing up, gets just about everything he wants, and he's obviously still getting information that he requested. That's where these notes came from. So he's obviously still on the Flynn case as well. But now he's working with John Durham. So I'm sure that's a great addition to Durham's team. And I'm starting to think that maybe Jeff Jensen will be a really good pick for FBI director. A really good pick for FBI director. How about Jensen for FBI director, and then as soon as Grinnell, finishes up, has his vacation and is rested up and ready to go, get rid of Gina Haspel and make Grinnell the CIA director. Then you got Ratcliffe as OD&I, Grinnell as CIA director, and Jeff Jensen as FBI director. Now that is a dream team. Let's see that. Oh yes. That would make me happy. Very, very happy. Now let's talk more about these notes, which if you go to John Sullivan's site, Just the News, he has 3 different links, PDF links, that you can go and look at these handwritten notes. Most people have seen them. And so what we learn from the notes is that these notes directly implicate Hussein Obama. Directly implicate Hussein Obama as ordering the investigation into Michael Flynn. Now keep in mind that the FBI the local office that was handling the Flynn investigation had decided by January 4th that we're going to close the case. Then you have this secret meeting. And that is where Obama makes the decision. It's clear from the notes that it was Obama's decision to keep investigating Flynn, despite the fact that the FBI office that did the original investigation had wanted to close the investigation because no wrongdoing was found. It is also being reported, and is actually in the notes, that Biden suggested that Flynn be charged or at least investigated for violating the Logan Act. So it appears to be Biden's idea, but it's hard to believe Biden would have any original idea like that. He probably got it from someone else. And then, of course, he went on to unmask Flynn a week later. And what does that mean for quid pro quo Joe? Well, it means that he lied his ass off in that interview with George Stephanopoulos, when he told Stephanopoulos that he really didn't know anything about the Flynn investigation other than the fact that he knows that they had requested an investigation. Well, clearly, that was a lie. Clearly, Biden was lying. Lying Biden. Now, I seriously doubt if the lamestream corporate media is ever going to challenge Biden on that. But hopefully, the other media, the true media, the real media, will continue to raise this issue. Hopefully, members of Congress will continue to raise this issue. Hopefully, the president, and I'm sure he will, keep tweeting about this. Force the corporate media to ask Biden why he lied, why he pretended that he didn't have anything to do with the Flynn investigation, when in fact it was he who suggested that Flynn be investigated for violating the Logan Act. He was all in. And why did he unmask Biden a week later? Clearly he was lying. He needs to be held to account. He's going to have to answer for it at some point. And even if it takes all the way until the debates, you can bet Trump will bring it up. There's also information in these notes that would suggest that possibly Sally Yates may have lied under oath about her knowledge of the Michael Flynn setup, because the notes suggest that there may have been a secret meeting prior to the January 5th meeting that was the reason that the investigation into Michael Flynn was not closed. Now, Jensen says that this meeting occurred somewhere between, or the notes were taken on the 4th, and suggests that there may have been a meeting that took place prior to that, which would mean if there was a secret meeting, we're talking about a secret meeting other than the January 5th meeting, is what Jensen is suggesting. Jensen is suggesting that based on the date of the notes and the fact that the notes are talking about something that had just happened, a meeting that had just happened, if the notes were taken on the 4th about a meeting that had already happened, then certainly they couldn't be talking about the January 5th meeting. He had to be talking about another meeting. And I imagine that Jeff Jensen is going to be digging into that to find out, and I assume that Peter's Been Stroking Us is going to be interviewed. I'm sure he already has been, but probably be interviewed again. And I'm sure that's the first question they'll ask him. What meeting were you talking about? And when did that meeting occur? And who was present at that meeting? Because if it turns out that Jeff Jensen's hunch is correct, then there was another meeting that we don't know about that took place before the 5th. And that would mean that silly Sally Yates was lying. We also have directly in the notes that Obama wanted the right people on the case. He said he wanted the right people on the case. What does he mean by that? What is the right people? What would Obama be talking about when he says, I want the right people on the case? Who would the right people be? Well, obviously, I mean, here you have the president telling the FBI director he wants the right people on the case. It's a kind of unusual request, or order, however you want to look at it. Because generally, these type of investigations are passed down to one of the field offices. But what Obama's saying is, I don't want you to do what you normally do and just hand it out to as Southern District of New York or Eastern District of Virginia or the Northern District of Maryland or anything like that. He's specifically saying, I want certain types of people here on this case. What type of people would that be? Well, obviously, because of the nature of what he was asking Comey to do, which is continue an investigation into Flynn after an FBI field office had already said it's time to close this investigation. So clearly Obama's wanting someone to do the investigation, to continue the investigation, who is rogue. Some FBI agents who will be willing to continue an investigation when their brothers in another district had already said, hey, it's time to shut this thing down. He's also probably suggesting that it should be someone who is opposed to Trump, his administration, Michael Flynn, or whatever. In other words, someone friendly to Obama and his administration and to their objectives. He's telling Comey what type of people he needs to do this investigation. Now, the very first thing that should have happened here is that once Comey tells Obama in this meeting that, and he says this, and it's in the notes, Comey tells Obama that the Flynn-Kislyak conversation was legit. In other words, nothing wrong with it. It's at that point that Comey should have left the room. Because now it's no longer of a criminal matter. The previous day, or January 4th, the FBI says, hey, there's nothing here, we need to close the investigation. Then Comey himself tells Obama that the Flynn-Kislyak phone call is legit and there's no issue. At that time, he should have left the meeting. Or at least ways not gone any further in discussing this matter. Now it's no longer a law enforcement issue. There's no crime. There's no reason to believe a crime was committed. It's over if you're the FBI director. The only thing that happens after that to move forward with the investigation is the political operation. That's when it becomes a political operation. When you determine that there is no criminal problem, no potential criminal problem, at that point, it's no longer in the realm of law enforcement. To continue the investigation beyond that, it's now in the political realm. Comey should have excused himself at that point, but he did not. And this is going to be, as I said weeks and weeks and weeks ago, this is going to be the defense of all the perpetrators. Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Strzok, McCabe, all of them. They're all going to say, we were ordered to do this by the president. Now, it didn't work in Nuremberg, and it's not going to work now. Because you're never going to make an argument that the jury's going to buy or a prosecutor is going to let you get away with by saying, yeah, well, I know it was illegal, and I shouldn't have done it, but my boss ordered me to do it. The President of the United States ordered me to do it. The President orders you to do something that's unlawful, illegal. You have to say, I'm sorry, Mr. President, that would not be lawful. I cannot do that. And if you're ordering me to do that, I'm afraid I'm going to have to resign. That was the proper course of action. But that's not what any of these people did. Why? Because they were all in. They were all in. And Obama would never have broached the topic with Comey, Brennan, or any of these other people unless he felt pretty comfortable that they would do what he wanted them to do, which is unlawful. If he thought that they would look at him and say, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I can't do that, that's unlawful, he never would have asked. Susan Rice was also in that meeting. So the notes are dated 1/4/17. The meeting that we've been discussing for months now took place January 5th. So if the notes are dated January 4th, it does suggest a secret meeting had to take place, as Jeff Jensen is saying, on the 3rd or earlier. In other words, there was another meeting. I think we need to find out all about that. My guess is is that Jeff Jensen is digging into that now. And this guy works fast. And he seems to be able to get to the bottom of things other people can't. So I'm very much looking forward to what more we learn from Jeff Jensen. Good news, my friends. Bill Barr, Attorney General Barr, is going to testify to Nadler's committee on July the 28th. Fantastic. This announcement was made by Kerry Kupek, the DOJ spokesperson, and it's going to be a questioning about the Stone and the Flynn cases. Of course, when the request was made was before we had the resolution of the Flynn situation, which has now, of course, been ruled by the appeals court 2-1 to dismiss the case. So there won't be much to talk about there. And of course, the Roger Stone situation, I expect there's going to be something going on with that as well. Stone is supposed to be reporting to serve his jail time here in about a week, but I think that there may be something that will happen before then that will stop that as well. I'd be very surprised if Stone actually has to go to jail. We will find out, but I think by the time we get to July 28th, that's a month from now, more than a month from now, by the time we get there, I think that we'll find out much more. And it's possible by then Durham may be coming out with his first series of indictments and everything else. A month from now, we're going to learn a lot. We're going to know a lot more than we know now, I would think, just based on things that Barr has said in recent interviews. So my guess is that Bill Barr is thinking about this, going, okay, the hearings are July 28th. He knows roughly what's going on and where all this is going to be in a month from now. So he must be feeling pretty good about it. And of course, if you're Bill Barr, you almost can't miss the opportunity to sit there and spar with Jerry Nadler and the demo commies on that committee. And especially when you know you're going to have people like Jordan and Gates and other guys, good guys, who are going to ask the real questions that will allow Barr to really elaborate on the things he really wants to talk about. So I think that Bill Barr is going to take every opportunity to have a very good time screwing with Nadler's head in that in that committee hearing. So we'll all be looking forward to the July 28th Bill Barr's testimony. I can't wait. That'll be a popcorn moment. Well, my friends, it looks like the FBI has blown up Bubba Wallace's noose hoax. Turns out it was nothing more than a door rope to shut the garage door. It had been there since October of 2019. However, it appears that Bubba is still doubling down. Now, Nascar has not really come out and made an official statement as far as I know, but they certainly are looking like a bunch of fools. And of course, we can only assume that Bubba Wallace is now suffering the Jussie Smollett syndrome. So he's got the Jussie syndrome, doubling down on everything. Maybe he and Jussie should get together. But the bottom line is the FBI says that Bubba Wallace was not the victim of a hate crime. You know, I've talked to two people in the last day or so, the last 24 hours, who were, like me, watched a lot of NASCAR. Now, these two guys were hardcore NASCAR fans. Watch every race, follow the sport very closely. Both of them told me they're done. They are done. And I told one of them, I said, we was talking about the NASCAR. I said, I don't know if I can watch NASCAR anymore. I mean, just that little thing I saw last weekend was just made my stomach turn, and how they handled that whole thing. And I'm just like, I thought that was just, so I don't think I can watch NASCAR. I don't think I can watch the NFL anymore. I mean, I'm about to wean myself totally off of my two favorite sports, the NFL and NASCAR. I just don't think I can do it anymore. So I'm talking to these two guys, and they're hardcore NASCAR fans. And both of them said, I'm done. I'll find something else to do on Sundays. And I'm telling you, when you lose hardcore NASCAR fans, like these are guys who are total NASCAR guys. They got all the hats, they got the jerseys, they got the little, cars. The one guy's got probably 20 grand wrapped up just in the little, cars. You go down his basement, he's got all the cars, on a shelf. He built this big shelf, one whole wall dedicated to NASCAR. His entire basement's basically dedicated to NASCAR. I mean, he's a NASCAR fool. Crazy about NASCAR. And he's done. And I got to wonder if I've talked to two hardcore NASCAR fans and both of them say they're done. That's 100%. I wonder if I talked to 100 NASCAR fans, how many of them would tell me they're done. That display that we saw last week, putting Bubba to the front of the field and Bubba standing there in front of all the other drivers with a, I can't breathe shirt on. I mean, it was turned my stomach to watch it. And I can't do it anymore. And I think that this is going to be, this whole thing, as I said, at some point they're going to realize that they're supporting a Marxist organization. We'll get to that when we get there, but I honestly believe that this whole sort of, and it's not a racial issue right now. It's a cultural issue, not a racial issue. The fact of the matter is, every day all over this country, people of all races and creeds work together, play together, party together, do all sorts of things together. There isn't this great racial divide in the country. Most people from a wide variety of races associate with each other every day in all different ways. This is a cultural deal, not a racial deal. And I think it's going to rip the heart right out of a lot of these sporting events. I think the NFL already lost a lot of fans who will never come back. Baseball doesn't do much better just because of the way they treat their fans. But NASCAR is the one I think is going to take the biggest hit here. I think NASCAR is going to lose a lot of fans. And we'll know when we see the TV numbers come in for the upcoming races that they're doing, because really not having people in the stands, it's all being done on TV. So it'll be interesting to see in the upcoming races what sort of viewership that they have. But I'll tell you what, if I'm an investor in NASCAR, if I'm a team owner, if I got money invested in NASCAR, I'm selling. I'm selling everything I got and getting out of it right now, because I see NASCAR failing, because it's a money sport. It takes a lot of money to build them cars, to hire them drivers, to do all that they do. It costs a lot of money. They have to continuously bring in a lot of money. And when the TV money dries up and they're not allowed to have people in the stands, the money dries up. And when the money dries up, that's it for that sport. That sport really relies heavily on money from the fans, buying the merchandise, coming to see the races, and watching them on the teletube. So if you lose all that revenue, and let's just say that 25 or 30% of the fans walk away, a lot of these guys invested, these team owners and all the other people were invested in NASCAR with all that money. I mean, they invest that money hoping to make it back later. They're up to their eyeballs, a lot of these people, in, I don't know if we say debt, but in their investment. But that investment could begin losing lots of money. And when you're trying to liquidate an investment that everybody knows is currently losing money, I mean, you can lose your shirt. And I suspect that NASCAR is going to lose a lot of fans, and a lot of people who have a lot of money wrapped up in NASCAR on the investment side are going to lose their shirt. And it's sad, but that is exactly what I see happening. Maybe I'm wrong. We're going to find out in the not too distant future. But I think there's going to be a lot of businesses, a lot of sporting, organizations. I don't think they realize exactly. I don't think they realize how big of a hit that they're probably going to take, and how this is playing across the country. Maybe they watch CNN all day and they think that all across the country people are for this, but I can tell you that they're not. I talk to people every single day who tell me they're disgusted, they're fed up, they're sick about what they're seeing, not just with everything going on with the sports, but with large companies, with everything. This whole thing is just making people ill. And watching people groveling to these groups, which they know are Marxist, anti-American groups, it's sickening. It's sickening to people. And this whole thing is going to turn out to be a tragedy in so many ways, but it's going to be a financial, the financial losses that are going to come as a result. I mean, coming on the heels of COVID-19, we'll recover from COVID-19. That's something we'd recover from in a year. But what's going on with all this cultural revolution stuff that's happening? No, that's going to take decades to recover from that. but not before a lot of people lose their shirt. Well, it looks like this arsonist, Natalie White, who was the one who started the fire in that Wendy's down in Atlanta, it turns out now that just as the rumors had suggested, she did have a close relationship. I mean, she was screwing Rayshard Brooks. Yikes. Now, weren't we told that Rayshard Brooks was a good family man? He was a good family man. I guess, if you consider a good family man someone who's having an extramarital affair and who's engaging in drinking and various other things. And she's a real winner, by the way. He's not only having an extramarital relationship, he's having one with a crazy arsonist. So, yeah, things are not what they seem, are they? But they never are. When you dig down below the surface and you find out what's really there. Well, I enjoyed watching a few video clips yesterday of Jim Jordan dismantling Aaron Zelensky in the hearings. And it was funny when he told Zelensky, well, you know, the problem is that the judge disagrees with what you're saying. I was a little disappointed that someone didn't bring up, and I haven't seen all the questions, but, you know, I've seen several of the questioners, and I was hoping someone would bring up to Zelensky his dealings with Papadopoulos, because remember, Zelensky was the one who was dealing with Papadopoulos too. And I wanted someone to ask him about Mr. Tawil and about the frame-up job on Papadopoulos, planting the 10 grand on him that he eventually didn't have when he got to the airport. I was hoping someone would broach that topic, but I haven't seen it yet. If someone did, I haven't seen that video clip. But Jim Jordan did a pretty good job of dismantling Zelensky and made him look like a babbling idiot. Now, Zelensky, just like the other fake whistleblowers, never actually heard anything firsthand. It was all hearsay. And he drops the name of the person who he says told him was his supervisor, who he refers to, is J.P. Cooney, or J.P. Coon. I think it's J.P. Cooney. But he never talked to anybody personally. But it's apparently this guy, J.P. Cooney, who his supervisor, who told him that Barr's decision to modify the Roger Stone sentencing was political. So I guess the next thing you do is call this guy J.P. Cooney and ask him. So it looks like this is pretty much just another demo commie hoax by the Penguin. Another day, another fail for the Penguin. The Dems, of course, blocked the vote on police reform. Looks like they're going to come up with their own plan. We continue to see this gaslighting in the polls, showing Biden up by 14%, 8% in Wisconsin. No way that's true. No way that's true. Total gaslighting and fake polls. We also found out that there's a new boss over there at CHOP in Seattle. Her name is Jaden Grayson. She's an activist. She says that she and they are not there to protest, that they are there to disrupt, and will do so until her demands are met. And she will persist by any means necessary. She's negotiating with the mayor, Durkin, to 1, abolish the entire correction system, 2, to abolish the police and the current system of justice. Good luck. She says that she's using money that she's getting in donations, I guess through BLM, to buy weapons. She's buying weapons. I wonder under whose name she's buying those weapons. And she says that if they're forced out of their current location, they'll just go take over another one, and they're looking at the West Precinct. Funny shit. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.